Tuesday, October 4th, special time for our city council business agenda. I will now call the meeting to order, and the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation, if he so chooses, will be led by Councilman Smith.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. We have no special presentations this evening. I will entertain a motion on our minutes. Minutes are motioned and seconded. We will accept those without objection. Madam Clerk, ordinances on final reading. Finance item A, please.
An ordinance to amend the operations budget ordinance number 13840, known as the fiscal year 2022 through 2023 operations budget, so as to appropriate $1,382,573 from general fund contingency to various departments, amend sections 5 and 5A to reallocate appropriation between departments, amend section 7 pay plans to correct an error, and amend section 7D to reallocate positions.
Dr. Burrs. Oops, sorry.
In order to amend the capital budget ordinance number 13841, known as the fiscal year 2022 through 2023 capital budget, so as to appropriate $1,500,000 to the Chattanooga Neighborhood Enterprise from the Affordable Housing Trust Capital Project.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Dr. Burrs.
Move approval,
I have a
sir.
motion to approve. Have a second to that motion. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Have one item no, or one vote no, Madam Clerk? Thank you. Ordinances on first reading, Public Works, item A, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 31, Sewers, Mains, and Drainage, Section 31-4, Installation, Maintenance, Repair of Sewer Service Lines, Charge, Exception, in Section 31-14, Private Communal Sanitary Sewer Systems related to sewer lateral maintenance.
Councilwoman, let's see, Councilman Henderson was first. Councilwoman Hill, you chimed in right at the same time. So, okay.
Well, I hadn't made a motion yet. Mr. Chair, with great pleasure, I move for approval on this item.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Hill, let me hit your light. All right, I have a motion to approve. I do have a second to that motion. Questions and comments before we vote? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Thank you, Councilman Henderson. Resolutions, Economic Development, Madam Clerk, item A, please.
A resolution confirming the surplus of approximately 14,863 square foot portion of tax map number 135016 located on the southeastern corner of the Moccasin Bend wastewater treatment plant at 455 Moccasin Bend Road and being adjacent to Moccasin Bend Golf Course.
Councilman Henderson,
Move approval.
have a motion to approve? Have a second to that motion. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Under Mayor's Office, Madam Clerk, item B, please.
A resolution renaming and dedicating the Brainerd Community Center complex located at 1010 North Moore Road to the Chris L. Ramsey Senior Community Center.
Councilman Hester, please.
I want to move to approve this, and I have a comment to afterwards.
Yes, sir. Let's get a second to that motion, and we'll get it on the floor. I do hear a second to that motion. It is on the floor. Go ahead with your comment.
I want to thank Tony Simon and everybody who were involved with this as far as renaming the Brainerd Community Center for Chris Ramsey. And I knew him ever since my family moved back to Chattanooga. He dedicated his life for the betterment of all Chattanooga, not just minorities, but all Chattanoogans. And we're blessed to, and I'm honored to have my name associated with the dedication to the center for Chris Ramsey. Thank you, Mayor and all your staff. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Councilman Hester.
Thank you,
Councilwoman
Tony.
Coonrod?
Thank you, Chair. It was a pleasure and an honor to work with Tony Sammons, his department, Ladarius Price, and Shannon over at Simple to get this done. Chris Ramsey, he was a catalyst in the community, and he worked tireless, like you said, Councilman Helser said, with everybody in our community to improve their lives. We were church members, and we miss him dearly at church. So it most definitely, again, a pleasure. Thank you, Tony Salmons, for putting up with my mouth and my emails every other week, it seemed like. But I wanted to make sure that this was something that didn't lay on deaf ears. And I wanted to make sure that it was a continued conversation because it's very important to our community. Thank you again.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I'll just add before we take a vote, I look forward to the ceremony date for the dedication coming up very soon, Tony. All right, fantastic. I do have a motion on the floor. The motion has been seconded for approval. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Don't see where that would happen. Thank you. Under planning, Madam Clerk, item C, please.
A resolution authorizing the city of Chattanooga to apply for and, if awarded, accept a Reconnecting Communities Pilot Program Planning Grant from the United States Department of Transportation to fund feasibility studies for implementing the transportation project recommendations included in the West Side Evolves Plan, with the city's contribution not to exceed $500,000 for a total amount not to exceed $2 million.
Madam Vice Chair,
Move to approve.
have a motion to approve. I do have a second to that motion.
All right, and I would like to make an amendment for that one.
Okay,
Okay, would like to amend the language that it reads not to exceed $2.5 million. This would accommodate the matching grant, the matching federal grant, so that it would read not to exceed $2.5 million, and our amount, of course, stays at $500,000.
thank you. There's a motion on the floor to amend. I do have a second to that motion. Questions, comments on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment, say aye. Opposed? Chair will entertain a motion to approve as amended. Have a motion to approve as amended. I do have a second to that motion. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item D under planning, Madam Clerk.
A resolution approving a special exceptions permit for a new proposed liquor store located at 3933 St. Elmo Avenue.
Have a motion to approve. Have a second to that motion. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? I have one abstention. Thank you, Councilman Henderson. Item does pass under Public Works. Item E, Madam Clerk.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to renew professional services on-call blanket contract for resident project representative RPR services, contract number E20011-401 for year 3 of 5 to the 12 consultant firms listed that submitted qualifications in 5 different categories per their qualification package. 1, ASA Engineering and Consulting, Inc., 2, Barge Design Solutions, Inc., 3, Consort Engineering, LLC, 4, CTI Engineering, Inc., 5, D. Martin and Partners, LLC, 6, Franklin Associates Architects, Inc., 7, Reagan Smith Associates, Inc., 8, S&ME, Inc., 9, Southern Environmental Technologies, Inc., 10, Thompson Engineering, 11, Volker, Inc., and 12, Woods Environment and Infrastructure for a total amount of $2 million.
Council will entertain a motion. Thank you. If I have a motion to approve, I do have a second to that motion. Questions or comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Thank you. Madam Clerk, item F, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to renew the professional services on-call blanket contract for landscape architect design services, contract number W16011-101 for year 3 of 5 to the 10 consulting firms listed per their qualification package. Number 1, ACE Engineering and Consulting, Inc., 2, Barge Design Solutions, 3, Alfred Bernish and Companies, 4, CDM Smith, Inc., 5, Core Engineering, 6, HDLA, 7, Reagan Smith Associates, Inc., 8, Ross Fowler, PC, 9, Stantec Consulting Services, Inc., and 10, WMWA Landscape Architects for a total amount of $1,250,000.
Councilman Henderson, is that a previous light or?
No, that's, move approval.
I have a motion to approve. I have a second to that motion. Questions, comments before we vote? All in favor, say aye, please. Opposed? Item carries. Madam Clerk, item G, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to accept a non-competitive American Rescue Plan grant from the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation Water Infrastructure Investment Program for stormwater and wastewater capital projects at wet weather Phase 6, Hickson Pump Station 1, and Dartmouth 5 Points Watershed Stormwater Improvement Project for a total amount of $16,667,052.02.
Have a motion to approve. Have a second to that motion. Questions, comments before we vote? Just a special note before we take our vote. This is a ARP grant of almost $17 million going towards infrastructure repair. I know we noted that at 3:30 or a 2:30 session today, but this is really important. It allows us to move forward on some other critical infrastructure improvements. So thank you. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? Thank you, council. That concludes our resolutions and ordinances for this evening. Purchases, Mr. Goldberg. I believe we have 6 purchases, an RFP, no emergencies, and a sole source report.
Yes, sir.
All right.
We have 6 long purchases.
Yes,
so
you do.
I shall go.
All right.
The first one is from Fleet Management Division of Public Works. This is a request to increase the contract for fire apparatus repair and maintenance services to cover repairs on fire apparatus through November 5th, 2022. The increase is $60,000 for a new annual amount not to exceed $115,000. Next is our new nonprofit agency contracts for economic and workforce development. These will be 4-year contracts. 10 proposals were received. Total award of $400,000 goes to 3 agencies with annual amounts not to exceed as follows: CoLab $100,000, Launch Inc. $100,000, Project Return $200,000. The third item is the new nonprofit agency contracts for community arts programming. These will be 4-year contracts. 13 proposals were received, and the total award of $450,000 goes to 5 agencies with annual amounts not to exceed as follows: Arts Build $270,000, Bessie Smith Hall $90,000, Chattanooga Symphony and Opera $52,000, Contemporary Performing Arts $12,000, Creative Discovery Museum $26,000. The fourth item is new nonprofit agency contracts for early learning partnerships. These will be 4-year contracts. 7 proposals were received. The total award of $500,000 goes to 4 agencies with annual amounts not to exceed as follows: Chambliss Center for Children $205,000, Girls Inc. of Chattanooga $45,000, Montessori Elementary at Highland Park $150,000, Signal Centers $100,000. Next is the agency contracts for social services. These will be 4-year contracts. 17 proposals were received, and the total award of $1,220,000 goes to 10 agencies with annual amounts not to exceed as follows: AIM Center $110,000, Cadis $80,000, Chattanooga Area Food Bank $80,000, Chattanooga Room in the Inn Inc. $25,000, Chattanooga Cares DBA Sempa $105,000, Helen Ross McNabb Center $50,000, La Paz de Dios $100,000, Partnership for Families, Adults, and Children $80,000, Signal Centers $535,000, Speech and Hearing Center $55,000. And lastly, we have the nonprofit agency contract for homeless support services. This will be a 4-year contract. 9 proposals were received. The award goes to 1 agency, Chattanooga Regional Homeless Coalition, with an annual amount not to exceed $820,000, including a required subaward of $70,000 to the community kitchen for operation of a cold weather shelter.
Have a motion to approve on our purchases this evening with a second to the motion. Questions or comments before we vote on purchases? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Purchases are approved.
Thank you, sir. Next, RFP format. This is requesting approval to issue an RFP, not approval to awarding contracts at this time. The Department of Economic Development is seeking proposals to increase the supply of decent and affordable housing through the renovation of city-owned properties to create owner-occupied duplex housing. An RFP is needed because approach is more important than price, and there is more than one solution for meeting the objective.
Thank you, council. You've heard our request for an RFP this evening. I have a motion to approve. I do have several seconds to that motion. questions, or comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Goldberg.
Thank you. And lastly, we have a sole source procurement to report to council. The Regional Planning Agency has completed a sole source procurement for annual maintenance and support for GIS-based software. The vendor is Wood Environmental, and the annual amount is $35,000. Wood Environmental is the original developer and sole provider with the capacity and technical competence to provide the services needed.
Thank you, Mr. Goldberg.
Thank you.
All right. That will conclude purchases for this evening. We will now move into committee reports, and we'll start with Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to remind everyone that next Tuesday, October the 11th at 2:00, we will have an ad hoc committee for short-term vacation rentals in our council conference room. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Hill.
Chair, we have a planning and zoning meeting today to prepare for our upcoming cases for the next few months.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Smith.
No report.
Councilman Hester.
We met today, and I will remind everybody, as we move toward the one Chattanooga, the words of Frederick Douglass: no struggle, no progress. Let us continue to move forward.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Coonrod, if you'll hit your light for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We'll be hosting a walk and talk in the Glass Forum area on October the 8th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. The starting location will be at 2901 Taylor Street. So if you live in that area, please come out because we want to hear from you, that area, what you would like to see in the community, and address any key issues that prevent that community from moving forward.
Thank you for that notice. Councilwoman Knoll. Dr. Burrs. Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair.
No report.
Very good. That ends our committee reports. Other business, Madam Attorney.
We have a certificate of compliance for a liquor store, which is actually going to be a Scenic City wine store in St. Elmo, and it has the required signatures.
Very good. Thank you. We now come to the point in our meeting where we recognize persons wishing to address the council. So if there's anyone wishing to address the council, if you'll start to make your way forward, Madam Attorney will read the public speaking rules for council.
Each speaker wishing to address the council shall be recognized only at the microphone provided for that purpose. Each speaker may address the council only upon matters within the legislative and quasi-judicial authority of the council. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes unless permission is given for additional time. You may not be permitted to use any vulgar or obscene language. The use of the floor by persons addressing the council shall not be used to personally attack or denigrate others. The chair is prohibited from recognizing any person, neighborhood association, or organization to speak during the non-agenda matters portion more than twice in the 30-day period. And persons wishing to may address the council only once per day.
All right. Please, sir. If you don't mind, if you'll tell us your name and what district you live in, that would be fantastic.
Okay. My name is Jerry Finkel, and I'm a lifelong resident of Chattanooga. I live in the East Brainerd area, but I own a property on Dodds Avenue, and that's why I'm here this afternoon. I bought my building at 1526 Dodds Avenue in 1993, and my sewer lines functioned properly for about 20 years. But then around 2012, 2013, not exactly sure of the year, I had sewer backup. Over the next 6 to 8 years, I attempted to correct the problem by using Roto-Rooter, Metro, Chase Mechanical, Rooterman, and finally Best Plumbing, the company that brought to my attention that I was on a communal sewer line. This cost thousands of dollars, $6,000 to $10,000. And I was told that I was on a sewer line with several others. Who knew? You know, who would even know to ask such a question? You might have enough awareness when you buy a property to ask if it's on septic or if it's on sewer line, but nobody would ask, are you on a communal sewer line? And of course, those lines have become obsolete. So here's the thing. All the problems I have that I was having were because the sewer line I share with other properties is broken about 80 yards beyond my property line. Nowhere inside of my property line do I have a leak, any presence of sewage, or any break in my sewer line. The integrity of my plumbing has always been and remains intact. But then your Public Works Department got involved. And suddenly I'm being cited for illicit discharge and illegal dumping. The ordinance they say that I'm in violation of is designed to totally put the onus on its citizens. So I was cited to appear in Judge Patey's court where representatives from Public Works along with the plumbing inspector, and based upon this ordinance, the judge and the city attorneys summarily dismissed me and my attorney under the duress of threatening me several times with condemning my property. And they determined that the sole responsibility falls on me to repair this problem. This whole situation was created by the city of Chattanooga. There was total absence of compassion or any empathy from the court or the Public Works Department for a problem not of my making, but by bad engineering some 80 or 90 years ago by the city of Chattanooga. I was given time restraints to comply or my very nice property would be condemned. So the result of the court order is a life-altering amount of money, $35,000, and I'm expected by the city to bear the entire cost of this. To fix a problem caused not by any irresponsibility or negligence on my part, but caused totally by the city of Chattanooga. Just because because government creates an ordinance or a law doesn't automatically make it fair or right. I have two last points to make, if I may.
Sir, I apologize, but we set the time limit at 3 minutes. Can you please email us your information and everything that you've written down so we can get with Public Works?
I just had one more paragraph, but
Yeah,
I'll
but
follow the rules.
I apologize, but we've been accused of not holding to the rules, and I need to hold to the rules. But I do appreciate you if you'll send us that information.
Great.
Dr. Burrs?
Yes.
He lives in District 6.
Mhm.
And I suggested because he's been all over trying to get this situation fixed and done right. And unfortunately, the last letter was to the director who is no longer there. So Mr. Payne is back there. Bill, I'd love some explanation as to why, or the thinking of the city about this. Can that happen?
Certainly, we can get all the details and be able to get that information.
If it's as he says, then that's a little odd, and we've had other sewer situations like that. So even though the problem is not in my district, the resident is, and I'm not satisfied with how this has been handled. So if you could be helpful, I'd appreciate it. Jim, you may want to talk to me, just get to know Bill, and then
And what is your position, sir?
it doesn't matter what his position is. He'll
Okay.
talk to you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Burrs. Evening, sir.
Hey, John, District 9. You guys almost got me with the time change. I was on my way to my workout, but I figured it out last minute.
I apologize.
That's totally fine. I want to talk about the importance of third places. A third place is somewhere that isn't work and isn't home. Cafes, clubs, churches, even bars and libraries count as third places. This concept was coined by Ray Oldenburg, who described them as anchors of communities, where relationships are formed through spontaneous conversation, art, and interactions. In the US, we've almost completely lost third places. In his book, Bowling Alone, Robert Putnam, the sociologist, noted this has been in a steady decline for decades, dropping club memberships, church attendance, etc. But the reasons for these are complex. As a society, we're not as homogenous in our religious beliefs anymore. There's a role technology is definitely playing, but there's also a role this is largely perpetuated by car-dependent urban sprawl. All cities, big and small, used to have densely populated downtowns. People experience chance encounters. Euclidean zoning segregated housing from shopping. Those places slowly died out. Companies tried to fill this void with malls as the new town squares, but online shopping has actually taken that to task as well. We've lost many gathering places, and third spaces we do have are now car dependent. They're convenience chains like Starbucks, which are mostly consumer-centric businesses modeled after on the on-the-go identity we've become. Good third places that encourage people to spend time and hang out for hours are hard to come by. But when you legalize mixed-use housing and zoning with housing and commerce together, foot traffic can support these places. These places often encourage organic events like block parties, yard sales, and barbecues. Technology has changed the way we view community. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think anything can replace the need for organic in-person connections that we get from these third places. I'm excited for the Broad Street project. I'm excited for the third places we have right now, like Ross's Landing. And I'm excited every time you make a decision towards UGC zoning, because I see that happening. But we need to change the default setting. Let's get rid of mandatory parking minimums. Let's make mixed-use zoning the default, and those who wish to exclude and segregate, they should be the ones having to apply for special conditions and permits. Without walkable communities, third places cannot thrive. And third places are where people from different social strata interact. And having strong relationships with someone in a higher social strata from you is one of the best pathways out of poverty. That was my pathway out of poverty, was friends and families in my church and in my community. So I'm here today just to encourage moving forward, opening up the idea that mixed use should be the default and parking minimums should be considered to be done away with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Sharon Dragg from College Hill Court, District 7. I want to thank you all for the matter you all looked into for us last week. I really want to thank y'all, but I'm here today on a matter of behalf of the tenants against the new project manager. I heard a lot of complaints. He's been harassing the young ladies. He's been out there just doing things. He's even gotten smart with me, which I'm the vice president and takes places of the president. And like I told him, you just been back here a month. And I noticed it's 21 people that you put out. I mean, you don't have to give me the reason why, but since I'm the vice president and the representative out there, you have to come and, you don't have to, but you can come and tell me their problem. So I've gotten 243 young ladies that signed it. I just want to know today, who do I need to talk to or who do I need to see? His name is Mr. Anthony Fears. We had an event last week where someone gave us a washer. I asked could we use the dolly. He spoke up, no. But that dolly I thought was for the community. So I'm not out there trying to change. I'm trying to change the community for the better. When I don't have any help from him, that means I don't have no help at all. And when they look at me, they come to me, it's like I'm the Cheerio of the bunch. So if you all could speak to him, tell me who I need to send to speak to him, we need that done bad out there because all the tenants. And he was out there before, but they saying he's really not doing good. He's not nothing to me but saying no. And I don't take no kindly, when it's for the good.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that's what I'm here today for.
Madam Vice Chair, I see your light.
Hey, Miss Sharon. Thank you so much for coming. And thank you, Jermaine and Kim, for handling the issue from last week. And we appreciate it so much. And if you could wait for a few minutes after the meeting, of course, I mind
yes,
chat
ma'am.
with you. And of course, actually, we have Beth Sickman, right? She's with the Housing
Okay.
Authority. She's here as well over in the back. So we can chat right after the meeting, Miss
Yes, ma'am.
Sharon. Thank you for
Thank y'all.
coming.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Burns.
Good evening, Council. My name is Helen Burns Sharp. I'm a resident of Diverse and Dynamic District 7. Speaking on behalf of Accountability for Taxpayer Money, I came here thinking this was my only opportunity to speak about proposed changes to your TIF policies, because on the agenda for your next week's meeting, it shows up as that. I was listening to your previous conversation about public expectations, and I'd like to add a kind of a wrinkle to that, is that things do change in government, and I completely get that. But I would hope that in the future that when the staff puts something on the council agenda that's a resolution for a future meeting, and it says that the content is attached, that it should be attached. So for about a month now, I've been seeing this topic, but no idea about what the proposed changes to the TIF policies are. So maybe that's something you could have some discussion about. But however, yesterday, Jermaine Freeman made a presentation to the IDB and mentioned a couple of things that I think is about to come to you once the attorney does the red line version. A couple of comments on the fees. We support the fee increase, the maximum term. Your wording now says typically 15 years, and we've done 5 TIFs and none have been for 15 years. We've done 4 for 20 years, and the latest one for the stadium was for 30 years. So we need to either follow what we have or change it. And I propose some wording that would say that if we're going to exceed 15 years, that there need to be findings adopted explaining why the longer period is necessary. One of the things, our policies are modeled after Knoxville. Knoxville has a 15-year limit. Their policy states that MTAS in its report on TIFs in Tennessee lists as one of its rules to keep the time as short as possible so tax revenues can start flowing back into the general fund. So another thing I think is coming forward to you is including residential projects, which currently you're not allowed to do in your TIF policies generally. And I know we have an affordable housing thing. I think this certainly is worth looking at, but concerns I would have, we're getting so much interest. We're probably about to get our 3rd application this year for a regular TIF. And I know that in the past, there have been a couple of developers off of Main Street who have sort of explored a residential TIF, and they've ended up doing the projects without the TIF. That's the ideal. We want housing, we want development, but we also want the tax base. And let's remember that we're in a time of abundance now with all this federal money. It's not going to be around forever. And when we start saying that property taxes won't be collected for 20 or 30 years, that's going to have implications down the road.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. I know, but
okay.
Thank you. I know. I appreciate you so much. I do. Thank you. Does anyone else like to address council this evening? Council, I am seeing no one. We have a motion to adjourn. Thank you.